Hey, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome to the 29th AMA session and 107th episode of the Clarity Chat. And we are at 107, all thanks to your encouragement and engagement. So, this is an open ended AMA session with some follow on questions and some reflections on my recent experiences. So, we'll be discussing the evolution of risk management in the current digital landscape, a question that came on the timestamp summary post afterwards, after our last clarity chat. I recently had an interaction with a client's PMO team and, about how to run an effective PMO. And then we have some follow on discussions from the last session around vendor risks, how to cover IT risks along with business, and the business is sponsoring your IT risks coverage. And I also had some one-on-one, chats with my CIO friends around the details of technology upkeep index. So I actually built one this afternoon. I'll be sharing that with you. So as we said, this is an open-ended AMA session. So you're welcome to join the studio if you have a case study to share, or if you have any experience where Clarity Chat added value to you. Please let us know, and we'll send you the link to this studio. Okay. So please go ahead and ask any questions related to managing IT, managing technology, or managing the value of technology, any chronic issues that you face, either being a partner or being an IT manager or a CIO. Yeah, don't leave anything outside of the discussion. So the discussion the discussions in Clarity Chat um, are targeted to help our audience become better technology managers as well as better technology value managers, right? And as always, we promise to provide honest answers, case studies, and practical approaches that you can apply in daily life. Yeah, it's an opportunity for all of us to have a stimulating and candid discussion on leadership and technology management insights. So, yeah, let's come discuss together. Okay. But before we go ahead, I always acknowledge my audience. We have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders in our audience. All of us know that technology is necessary but not sufficient to drive business performance. I and the guests on Clarity Chat, we have built a bridge between the necessary and sufficient with the art of managing technologies. Now, Clarity Chat builds that bridge between their learnings, my learnings, and all of you who are trying to make a powerful impact on the business with technology. And it's all experiences, no gyan. And thank you all of us for joining us for the last 106 episodes and encouraging us with your interactions, questions. That's what keeps us going. Um, and may I request our audience to share your name and where you're joining from in the comment box of LinkedIn and YouTube. Unless I see your comments here, I feel that I'm talking to a laptop and a couple of screens here. And thank you, Karthikeyan, for opening the account. So, hey, hi, Karthik. Hey guys, please send us your comments, make your presence felt, and make me feel less alone here in this room. But thank you all for attending. So let's now begin the session. The first, some of the questions here, or some of the discussions here, are a follow-on, as I said, to the last discussion, and some comments that we've had on LinkedIn, and some from my experiences with clients, my different team interactions, etc. So the first question was evolution of risk management in the current digital landscape, Okay. So last time when we were discussing about risk management, we said, listen, sometimes the security risks, the cyber security risks, they dazzle out the rest of them, right? The technology upkeep, the obsolescence risks, and the vendor risks, etc., etc., right? So we deliberately kept cybersecurity aside and discussed on the remaining parts of the risk. Okay. So the question that came uh, you know, uh, in the post that we sent out on the timestamp was that how do you see the risk management evolving in the current digital landscape, right? So again, from a IT management point of view, let me put these in three different buckets. The risks in three different buckets. So number one is technology risks, which are like your cybersecurity risk. A lot of these cybersecurity risks are arising from technology obsolescence that we build by not upgrading technology, and many times not upgrading technology is a question of the investments in upgrades being deprioritized by your management because of our inability to show ROI, right? So, and many times even not being able to invest fully in cybersecurity is again a matter of not being able to our investments not being able to find the priority. So that's where I come to the next one, which I call as a governance risk, because um, when these technology risks are being assumed by the IT function, eventually the impact will be on business, right? So um, it's probably our inability to run the governance process, okay, in an effective manner, not being able to convince the stakeholders who are going to get impacted. That's where I would call the governance risk. So um, look at your entire decision making wherever you have to make decisions with others, either in terms of, let's say, upgrading the infrastructure, capacities, redundancies, etc., etc. Um, does your governance process cover risks appropriately, or the treatment and investments of risks appropriately? If not, then I would call that itself as a governance risk, which is are not being able to communicate effectively and not being able to drive those decisions jointly with the people who are impacted. Again, this was another question that I kind of addressed right in the first year of being a CIO. How do you run effective governance? Okay. We were trying to set up a governance forum for information security, and we could not. So I sat with my CISO and we asked a very simple question. Hey, tomorrow, if any of the risks that we are talking about, if it manifests itself, then who all will get sort of like pinged, and who all will have to clean the muck, right? Or who all will have to clean the shit. So yeah, we got the names, operations, legal, HR, communications, and all of that. And these are the guys who need to come to a table to prevent those things from happening, because if you don't do that, then you have to actually come and clean. So better keep your house clean than later on the shit hitting the roof and then you being asked to clean the whole thing, right? That actually works very well. So how do you mitigate the governance risk? Is by involving all those people who will be impacted by that in any way, directly or indirectly. Directly means your operations will stop, or you will not be able to operate effectively, as well as indirectly. That means people who will be asked to come, maybe um, uh, cover that either from a reputation point of view, or from a legal point of view, uh, or from a compliance point of view, etc. Right? So whoever gets impacted gets involved in the governance. So that's how you take care of the governance risk. The third part is the management risks, which is, do we have good tools to manage these risks? And last time our focus was on management process, which is, ask a simple question in every forum that you run as IT, is what can go wrong, right? What can go wrong with our technology that will impact our business, right? And just create a sort of laundry list of these things, and then look at them with probability and impact. I mean, how probable is that event? Is that event like once in an eon types, or is that event like, it can happen once a month? Like, for example, cybersecurity attacks can happen on a daily basis, right? And then the second thing is that, what is the impact? Is it going to impact the entire organization or a particular part of our operation? Is it going to impact the customer facing operations and processes more, or is it going to affect your back office, right? So you have to assess the probability and impact, multiply them, come to a score, and data, right? So watch the last episode for that. So that's, I would call, as a management risk. Now, if you look at from that point of view, from these 3 points of view, as we go into as the digital landscape evolves, okay, so what's happening is that, let's look at it from a business point of view first. More and more areas of your business are now dependent critically on technology. Now, mind you, the word critically on technology, right? So the moment you open an e-commerce, let's say, channel for your customers, it's no longer 9 to 5. Most of your organization works 9 to 5, but this channel works 24/7. So imagine 11 o'clock at night, a customer is not able to do a high value transaction. What is the support mechanism, right? So I would call those as operations risks. Okay, so these are not necessarily cyber risk, but these are because you are becoming more and more digitally enabled and more digitally, let's say, dependent, the traditional IT risks are now becoming business risks. So let's say between 11 and 12, you figure out that, oh my God, we were not able to do some 50 lakh worth of transactions. That's a real business loss, right? So your risk management approach has to start looking at a fourth area, which is the operations risk. Operations risk means that whenever something goes wrong in my business operations, either let's say plant, or you can be running automated plants. For example, in process manufacturing, you can be running e-commerce sites which are 24/7. But anything that's running on digital, the moment something goes down, are you going to get an alert? Do you have a mitigation mechanism for that? Is there a failover? Do you have good amount of redundancy mechanisms there? Do you have good amount of alerting mechanisms there? For example, if you have a 24/7 operations running, then you typically should have a small operation which is monitoring these, and people who are empowered enough to basically call anybody at 2 o'clock at night and get things sorted out, right? Okay, looks like I lost my network in a bit. Okay. So the biggest area that I want to add there is basically the operations risks. Okay. And towards that, the next one is the reliability, right? So how reliable and how resilient are your operations? So there are another set of, I would not call them as purely technology interventions, but it's like technology plus management interventions. Something like, let's say, site reliability engineering or AI ops, those kind of areas you need to adopt if your business is more and more becoming automated, more and more becoming dependent on technology, especially in those hours when the teams are not working. Okay. Let me know your any follow-on questions on that. I hope that made sense. Adding a fourth area of operations risks because of digitally enabled business to the three areas of technology risk, governance risk in terms of taking decisions about technologies, and the management risk about having a management framework for managing your risks. Okay. Um, Now there is a follow-on question on that. Hey Chitranjan, thanks for asking that question. Topics and questions look great for several risk management. Also, sir, clarify, is CSO available in boardroom or not? Knowledge of board for cybersecurity and all. Okay. Oh, that's an important one. CISO available in boardroom or not? Okay. I have seen increasingly it started, when during the sort of later years of me being a CIO, I found that the board was the board, and especially the risk committee of the board. They wanted more and more information about the cyber risks. Okay. Now, definitely, CISO is required in the boardroom. If you don't have, probably your board is not being made aware of the risks, or maybe you're doing such a fantastic job that there are third parties who are saying that, hey guys, we don't worry about that for you. Okay. But what I have also seen is the CISO can reach the boardroom, but then those 3 or 4 areas that I mentioned to you, right? They are all business focused areas, right? Operations risk, governance risk, having a management framework, etc. So the question to ask, Chitranjan, is that is our CISO being able to communicate in business terms or not? Right? Are we able to translate those IT areas or IT risks into business risk and therefore communicate effectively? End of the day, when you're going to the boardroom, you want to make sure that, you get the decisions that help you increase the resilience of the organization, and that will come when you're able to talk in terms of business rather than in terms of just the pure technology, right? One of the things that I know people hate, especially senior business people who are there on the board, is the technical mumbo jumbo. So your communication plays a very, very important role in these kind of forums. Okay. But thanks for that question, Chitranjan. Very important. Knowledge of the board for cybersecurity. I think this is something where the CIO and CISO, they need to work with the CEO. Eventually, when you want to be more, see, everything costs money, right? And when you want your board to look at IT risks as IT and cybersecurity risks as and you want to invest in those in a significant way, the board is going to ask questions, and what they will be looking at, not to cut down your budgets, but to reassure themselves that are you doing everything required, and what would be the to be situation once we have made those investments, and how are you going to be making sure that those investments are going to be effective. So they're going to ask you a lot of those questions to reassure themselves whether whatever you are talking, is it just a set of technologies you're buying, or you're very clear that how these technologies are going to be used, what kind of management processes you're going to put in place, etc., etc., right? And of course, what the world is doing around you. So I hope, Chitranjan, that answers the question, and if not, you can send your follow-on question. Okay. Hey, Karthik, I can see long questions from you, buddy. That will just occupy all the real estate on the screen. So a small suggestion: can you please open ChatGPT on another screen and just put out this and ask ChatGPT to summarize it in 3 lines, and then please post it back here. I mean, don't mind, but I think we'll just end up spending all our time in reading the question. So I'm skipping it for now. I'll wait for a summarized question from you. Okay. Okay, so now let's move to the next one, which is effective PMO. It was actually just yesterday I was talking to a client's team, PMO team, and the new team being set up to streamline all the programs. And yes, there was an initial pep talk about um, how a PMO role basically makes you a 10-handed super person, all rounder, etc., etc., and how important it is their role in terms of driving the programs. um, well, my turn came, and my simple question to them was that, hey, what is effectiveness? Effectiveness is when you are able to achieve big outcomes with a small amount of effort, right? So PMO tends to be perceived as people like who are after everyone's life and trying to get things done and all that, right? In the recent I would say few quarters, I've had some personal experiences in setting up PMOs, and as always my focus has been that how can you be effective without being noisy, right? How can you not be shouting at people but is still able to get things done? Now that's the hard part, and that's what requires some thinking. So as they say, a picture speaks, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Similarly, in business and management terms, a data point is worth 1,000 words. Okay, so let data do the talking rather than a loud voice. That was my first message to them, that be data driven. Okay, that means when you are talking, uh, well, now how to become data driven. So one principle to become data driven is to take out all the adjectives and adverbs from your vocabulary, right? There's nothing called few, some, many, little, too much, too little, etc., etc., right? And very late, little late. No, all those words have to go out of your dictionary, and instead of that, they need to be replaced by real numbers. Like this task is 3 days overdue, or this task is 30 days overdue, right? Um, we have we need many more resources. Doesn't mean anything unless you say we need 3 more resources or we need 12 more resources, right? Because our perceptions in terms of adjectives and adverbs are different. What may mean many to you may mean little to your boss. I mean, just to give you an example, when I was the CIO, I was managing a budget which was XXX crores, whereas my boss was managing an organization which was 6x crores. So what was a lot for me was actually a little for him, right? And this will always happen, especially when you talk across hierarchies. These words will lose their meaning. Therefore, be absolutely data driven, and you have to find the data, and you have to figure out data. So taking an example, um, one of the PMOs asked me that, sir, when we are tracking tasks, um, these promise dates keep getting revised, and that's where we struggle. Okay, I said, okay, so how do you drive a data point on this? Okay, that a date is being revised. Now how do I compare two people who are asking for revision of dates? So I said, okay, you know what, put the first ETA, split it into two columns. The first one is promise date, and the second one is the revised promise date, right? And add a third column which says, okay, what is the difference between the revised date and the previous date? And as you keep revising the second date, this will automatically keep increasing, and therefore that data will start doing the talking. And if anybody has asked for a revision more than, let's say, once or twice, the guy should get uncomfortable by looking at that data to ask for a revision a third time, right? And then when you are looking at it as a dashboard, you can find some patterns that, hey, there is one particular person who's continuously asking for revisions, and the average difference between the original promise and the revised promise is 15 days. Whereas, in general, there are a few guys, who are not asking for more than one revision, and the revision is like, maximum difference is 3 days. Now, that's how you now think about it. When you publish that data, and of course, as PMO, you're supposed to publish the data. This data does the talking. Now, you don't really have to sit on the head of the guy who's who's continuously revising his projection of completing a task and is now 15 days late. You don't have to be after him. Hey, you keep on revising your date, and you have revised it 5 times or 6 times, etc. You don't need all of that. You just need to show him the mirror of data saying that this is 15. For everyone else, this is 3. Okay. So let the data do the talking, and be creative in figuring out the KPIs. Okay. So convert all kind of tracking into KPIs. Another example I can give you is, let's say, overdue actions. Okay. And it's all actually, a lot of PMO work is in Excels, and those Excels you can drive formulas. So here is one. As I developed an action tracker for somebody maybe a few months back. And so what we did was, so this is the action, this is the owner, and this is the due date, and this is the closure date, right? Closure date means when the action got closed. Okay. And we did a very simple metric, which is, the time for closure. Okay. Now, if the time, so here is how it works. That if the issue is closed, then it is the close date minus open date. That becomes a KPI. And if the issue is open, then it becomes today minus the open date, the date when that issue was open. And very interestingly, then we also did a due date. We also did a overdue calculation, which is, you are promising a particular date, and you do a calculation which is today minus the promised date, if the action is still open. Okay. And now it gives you a way of prioritizing. First thing, it gives you a KPI, right? How many days overdue any task is. When you publish it on your Teams or your shared folders, people can see. You can, if you are good in, let's say, programming, you can even drive some mail notifications on this. And but then when you are doing your daily and weekly reviews, to the team, you may have 150 tasks, but your filters are picking up only those which are more than, let's say, a week late. And that's how you drive prioritization. So data allows you to take up effectively with the people. Data allows you to not raise your voice, but still be loud and firm in your messaging. And data allows you to prioritize your actions. Okay. So devil is in the details. Be data driven. And very importantly, another of my message to them was that in the last couple of months, we have done 2 sessions on program management, effective program management. Please watch those. They are from high level right down to the low level, where we have shared trackers and all. So I just thought I will bring up this discussion for you. I'm sure everyone runs a PMO, and this is something that's at a very, very base level of operations, where you need task tracking, you need to drive effective coordination between the teams, whether you're running a project or even an operation. Okay. So let me see if where are my audience? Hey guys. Okay, so I have my my very regular audience sets come, but this time instead of Texas, he's joining us from Ongole, Andhra Pradesh. Hey, Sats. Ongole used to be my favorite place. I have some really good memories of Ongole. Actually, to be precise, very near Ongol, you have a place called Chimakurti, and Chimakurti is the place which is the only place where you get golden granite. That means these black granites with those golden chips. That's the only place where it's found. I don't know if they have found another source or not. And when I was an excavator service engineer, um, I used to be posted there for managing our machines, and that's one place where I and one of my sales guys, we actually raised the game of Tata Hitachi there, and we actually captured a lot of market share. But that's for another day. Maybe Sats, you and I can talk about it. But the moment you say Ongol, Nellore, and all, it really brings out sweet memories. And by the way, Nellore, because of that success in Ongol, I was about to be appointed as a sales manager, zonal manager of sales in Nellore. Well, that didn't happen. I got transferred to Mumbai before that itself. So I assume it's your native place or your wife's native place. So enjoy your holidays. I know it's Christmas time, so you must be home. But thanks still for joining during your vacations. Okay. So guys, any other questions? Hey Karthik, don't feel bad, man. Not at all, not at all. It's just that, just make it friendly. Okay, just um, ask your questions in a little succinct manner. That will really help everybody, including me. By the time I finish your question, I actually am lost with the first part of the question. Okay, so we have Chitranjan coming back here. He's saying, yes, sir, clear. Just published my fifth book on CISO and boardroom. Wow, that's awesome, Chitranjan. Yogic Sanjeevani, CISO or Hanuman at boardroom. The boardroom needs the modern chief information security officer. Hey, that's really interesting, Chitranjan. Maybe for our audience benefit, maybe if you can um, type down some three or four key areas that you have covered there. That will be awesome. Or if you want to come on air, just let us know, and my team will send you a link, and you can quickly talk about your book here. Okay. Okay, and looks like we continue to have. I'm looking at the chat from my team. Looks like we continue to have this problem of some comments not showing up here. While I'm complaining about people not sending your comments, but I think you guys are sending your comments, but then it's not appearing in my studio here. This is the third episode where we are having this problem. We have knocked the doors, and we have knocked the doors with our heads also, with StreamYard and LinkedIn. And well, as expected with technology companies, uh, you don't get good support. Okay. It's just one of the byproducts of being monopolies that don't get support. Okay, so hey, Chitranjan, Sats is asking, when is your book coming out? Hey, Sats, Chitranjan just said that his book just came out, just published the fifth book. So Chitranjan, you can probably send out a link on the chat so that people can start following that. Okay, yeah. Now let's come to another follow-up question from the last chat, which is about the vendor risks. Okay. Last time we really covered the IT services vendors risks, about about those escrow risks, and building it into contracts, etc. There are a couple of other things that came out afterwards in follow-up discussions, and one of them was basically product capability risk. So two things: product capability risk and okay. Sorry for the distraction, guys. Sets is asking. I was asking about a book from you. Sets, good question. My only answer to that is हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले. What it means in English is thousands of wishes, uh, and each wish on which I could bestow my life. But that's the way of life, that there's not enough time for every wish. Okay, so yes, that should be that's one of the that's one on the bucket list, especially after having generated almost like 110 hours of content over all these clarity chats. um, but if you have any ideas, send them across. I don't mind actually outsourcing the whole thing to somebody who can go through those 100 plus hours of content and then drive it for me. But thanks, Eds. Uh, and I wish as much as you wish. Oh, okay. So coming back to the question on the vendor risks. So we're talking about the capability risk. So one of them was like, when you come across your SI basically saying that, hey, this cannot be done in this technology, that cannot be done in this technology. So I call it as a product capability risk. And then you go to your vendor, and you go to your product vendor, and he says, oh, no, your SI is useless. He doesn't know how to configure it. He doesn't have certified people, and blah blah blah, right? And then you are like now left hanging between the two. Now, how do you mitigate the vendor capability risk? Well, there are two risks here. Okay, both capability risks. One is your SI capability risk, that your SI doesn't know how to get the max out of the product, and your product capability risk, where your SI claims that your product doesn't have those capabilities, right? And I think there's one single mitigation for both of them, and which is to drive an effective tripartite governance. Um, I have I've been doing it right since the day one. When we ran the first program, we identified this as a risk, that we can be caught in the crossfire as a customer, between the SI vendor and the product vendor, because the product guy comes and sells you licenses, the SI implements it, and your overall effectiveness, it comes out of how well this has been done. uh, have we really used the capability of the product, and has it been uh, configured as per the best practices, right? So and this is something I also helped my one of my customers set up recently, which is I call it as a partner governance mechanism, right? So this is like in a room, when you're undergoing an implementation, invite your product vendor and your SI vendor, the leadership, to be in the room at the same time, let's say once every fortnight or once every month. And all these questions that keep coming up in your day-to-day reviews about the product not being able to do this, or any of your expectations from the product not being met, please raise it, and also invite your product vendor to audit the implementation methodology, etc., of your system integrator, right? This is a very, very effective mechanism. I have seen it work very well. And this also de-risks you as a client, where um, you're not doing a post-mortem later on, where either of the vendors are blaming each other. Let those things happen on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So the other is the license compliance risk. Um, Again, as people go more and more on SaaS and cloud, this risk is reducing, but we all have a lot of legacy infrastructure and legacy applications, and therefore this still remains in contention and as a headache to a technology manager or a CIO. There is enough discussion on this, which I have seen in the CIO group, so I will not repeat that, but I will just summarize that It typically starts with a notice coming out of the blue that we want to audit your license landscape, and that sets out like a cat amongst the pigeons. Well, there is a playbook which you can actually send a question in any of the CIO groups, and you will get some standard answers there. Well, the first thing is that involve your legal. Second thing is that tell them that yeah, we are open, but seek a certain set of indemnities that that you will not lose any data. They will protect all your data. They will not look at any data other than the license data, etc., etc., etc. And actually, there should be enough indemnities to put them off, right? And the second thing you have to the third thing that you also have to do is to start an internal audit process of the licenses and start looking at surrendering or deactivating the ones where you're non-compliant. And the simple philosophy there is to basically look at the last used date, okay, and take all those licenses where the last used date is the oldest, take them out of your system, okay. Then the next one was a technology upkeep index discussion. My friend Kiran Belsekar reached out to me from about sending some details. Now, I did not carry any data with me. I was so fast forward. I didn't have, but then I built one, and I wanted to show that to you guys. Give me a moment. So this technology upkeep index uh, is supposed to help you in driving discussions around the technology upkeep, and again make the whole discussion much more data driven, right? I think the file got closed. I'm just opening it again. Yeah. And this is also to like give us to give some flavor on how do you drive KPIs. And I'm just going to share my screen. Give me a minute. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen. So you can enrich this further, but starts with serial number, category. Is it ERP, network, data center, servers, etc.? Then it's a technology. Is it SAP, core switch, CRM? The criticality, the business criticality of that technology. That means something happening there. How 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 badly will it impact us, impact our operation? What is the latest version here? What is our version here? When was this first rolled out? When was the last upgrade done? How many years since the last upgrade? And what is the difference, which is now this is the key column here, okay, which is the difference between actually the our version and where is that? Our version and latest version, okay. So let me, yeah, this is the right place, all right. Latest version and our version, what is the difference? And what was the last year? What is the weighted risk? That means the difference multiplied by the criticality, okay. um, that's your weighted risk. And what is the mitigation, right? So mitigation is like upgrade or seek extended support from the vendor for some extra money. And what should be your budgeting timeline? So which year should we be planning to replace it? So this is the major TUI, which is the major technology upgrade index. Just plug in all your major technology. Don't try to do everything here. Try to look at anything which is like enterprise wide critical, not let's say a location or a particular department. um, and this is something that can then help you do the budgeting, that can also help you do the risk assessment, because we said weighted risk, right? And then you can identify the top risks out of them, and you can actually enrich it further. If you want to go towards the right, you can further enrich it with the business related parameters, like for example, which are the key functions. Sometimes that actually helps in decision making. The key function is, let's say, finance or sales or service. The priority automatically becomes higher, right? So I hope this helps, guys. And so anybody who wants a copy of it, just send me a private message on LinkedIn, and my team will send it across to you. Okay. Uh, okay. And last, not the least, was like our last question on follow up of on the business sponsorship for covering IT risks. Again, the basic premise of why should we be talking to the business for covering the IT risk is because 100 rupees required for covering an IT risk, if you don't do that, the business cost will be like 10,000 rupees, right? So it's almost like 50 to 100x. Okay. So just a very, very common example of disaster recovery. Let's say you are a 2000 crore organization, and you're working 5 days a week. One day of downtime costs you about 20 crore rupees. Okay. And if you don't have a DR, um, and let's say your data center goes down, recovery efforts, everything, uh, best you are able to get like in 5 days, right? So that's a loss of about um, 10 into 5, about 50 crore rupees. And maybe setting up a DR will cost you a fraction of that, right? So when the moment you bring in this perspective that, hey, the business impact is 50 crore, but I need, let's say, 2 crore to mitigate that risk, I think that is where it starts making sense to the business guys, and it brings that proportion between the IT cost and business impact very, very clearly. So whenever you are discussing with the CXOs and business leaders, uh, do share your top risks, okay, even if they are not able to do anything about it, because let's understand, people talk to people in an organization. When you are sharing your risks, and more importantly the business impact of those risks with your stakeholders, you are actually spreading that information that, guys, we need to do something about it. And eventually, whenever you have a higher level discussion, the number of naysayers will be much lesser, because you have made everyone aware. So don't estimate the power of effective communication, especially around risk, and especially when it is required for getting you the budgets, and especially where you cannot explain the ROI except in terms of the business impact of what if we don't do this, what kind of impact it will have on our business, right? Okay, let me go back um, to my audience comments here. Okay, so Karthik, you haven't, looks like you felt bad and you haven't sent me a summary of it. So I'm sorry if I was if you felt bad, but I think you have mentioned something about the Dream 11 Bet 365 kind of mobile apps. Completely outside of the coverage of Clarity Chat, so I will not pick it up. Let me take out the next comment of yours, which is IT risk management should be should be renamed as IT reward management, because I believe that the higher the risk one takes, the higher the reward, and the lower the risk, the more moderate the reward. Indians are by nature risk averse and looking to mitigate as much as the risk. I was telling you it will overshadow me. I need to get up. Okay. Instead of proverbially putting all the eggs in one basket, just try to squeeze the maximum reward, the peace of mind, etc., etc. Yeah, I think that's an important one. The only thing is that Karthik, where um, uh, where I mean, let me refine what you said. Okay, yes, no risk, no reward, right? But then you cannot take a risk which brings the house down, right? So this was a I actually heard someone say that, hey guys, like as business managers, I expect you to be risk takers, but don't take a risk which brings the house down. That means you can have a limited impact. Now, how in case of technology, how do you translate it? You translate it that take a small area, okay, for trying out new things, and so that if something doesn't go right or if something goes wrong, there is no major business impact which will then basically destabilize your position as a manager or as a leader. Okay. Mm, for example, you want to try out a completely new, let's say, chatbot driven sales. Don't try out it on your main product line. Try it out on one of your niche where you have a small customer base, um, maybe in a particular geography, and test it out. And if it works well, then only take that success and then take it to your management, right? So the key is take risks, but don't bring the house down. That means contain the fallouts of the risk reward, right? I hope that makes sense, Karthik. Your second comment is when we take the leap of faith, we tend to take baby steps instead of rapidly scaling up and out. However, as fortune favors the brave. Yeah, of course, Karthik, I do not disagree with you. Okay. Um, as I said, it is not about not taking risk. Okay. Um, so two, three maybe parting comments on this, and I think Karthik, thanks for generating that discussion. Number one is, should we not take risks? We must take risks. Okay. Second is, how should we take risk? We should take mitigated risk. That means we should know that we are taking a risk. These are the consequences, and you must have a fallback action plan. If this goes wrong, then what will I do? Like for example, whenever you do the upgrades, the upgrades are actually major shifts, right? But then when you do the upgrade, you always have a rollback plan, right? And you have those quality gates at every step. You are doing cut, a checklist, and if something goes wrong, you are ready to roll back, right? So it's also like, another analogy I can give you: when you're doing rock climbing, okay, as you keep climbing up, you actually keep inserting those hooks in the cracks of the rocks, and then you go up, knock the next hook into the rock. So it's like as you keep going higher and higher, your probability of the probability of falling down doesn't increase, but the impact of when you fall down increases. From 10 feet it is different, from 100 feet it is different. So what you're doing is you're knocking those hooks on the rocks, so that even if you fall, like, it will hold you back, right? So that's what I mean by risk mitigation. We must always take mitigated risks. Not taking risk is not an option if you're in business. Okay. Eventually your shareholders reward you on, from a stock market principle point of view, which is risk reward mechanism. And everyone in the organization needs to take a risk which is more than the FD rate. Okay. So but the excellence is in mitigating the risks, okay, and making sure that you always have a fallback plan. Okay, so on that note, um, let me do a quick summary of today's discussion. We are 4 minutes away. Okay. So we talked about evolution of risk management in the current digital age. We talked about technology risk, management risk, governance risk, which is to not be able to drive the effective governance process. And then finally, in the new reality where you have more and more dependence on technology and more 24 by 7 reality of the business, you need to bring in operations risk as into the mainstream and identify the mitigation mechanisms, right? So which basically, in another words, is like reliability and resilience of operations and adoption of frameworks like SRE, right? We had Chitranjan asking us a question about risk management, CISO being available in the boardroom. And, that was a little cheeky, because only after I answered the question, he revealed that he has written the fifth book. And that makes me seem like a, a novice. But nevertheless, Chitranjan, maybe let's have a discussion another day, okay? But the key here again is about the ability of a CISO and CIO to communicate the risks effectively to the board and to be able to drive the investments and mitigations well. Then we talked about the effective PMO, the key message being be data driven, find out KPIs, take out adjectives and adverbs from your vocabulary, drive those action trackers, and we took some examples on how can you become more data driven, and how can you have data do the work for you rather than a loud voice doing it for you. Then we discussed the vendor risks, both the product risks as well as the SI capability risk, and the whole answer is to get the SI vendor and the product vendor together in a room time to time, so that you don't have a post-mortem being done by either of them, that the other guy didn't know his job or didn't know the product. So better get them in the same room from time to time and review the entire project transparently between them, right? And then we talked about the business sponsorship of IT risks, the importance of communication in driving risk mitigation and eventual decisions. We took an example of disaster recovery to drive the discussion from a business impact point of view. And finally, before we picked up Karthik's question around, looking at IT risk management as a reward management. Good discussion, because you need to look at the, there is no reward without risk, but then you should not take a naked risk. That means your risks should be mitigated. You must have a fallback plan. And we talked about the example of having a rollback plan whenever you're doing any major upgrades. Okay. And before we end, thank you, Sets, for your suggestion. Definitely, the royalty will be bigger than that T of 2 clarity. Wow. I mean, that's a fantastic name. Brings in my golf, brings in Clarity Chat, brings in the whole concept of clarity. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is a fantastic name for a book. Okay. That motivates me a little more now. Okay. So on that note, guys, everyone, thank you for attending this session of the Clarity Chat. And thank you everyone who is watching the recording of this. And everyone, if whatever we shared here, if you want more details of it, drop me a private message on LinkedIn, or if you have my number, the WhatsApp on WhatsApp, and my team will send it to you. On that note, thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you after 2 weeks. And we'll meet in the new year. So happy new year to everyone. Bye-bye.